that's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this DJ?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
But really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this fantastical and most excellent episode 69 of the DGen Roundtables Book Club. I'm going to be your host for tonight. My name is Will Stevenson. I'm an iron worker that travels the states, building TV and radio towers. In my free time, I like to talk about books, crypto, and personal self-betterment to assholes and degenerates such as yourselves and fellow people on the panels and things. I'm joined tonight by my good friend, Mr. Zenith. Mr. Zenith Crypto of the DGen Roundtable is our resident legal and government analyst. And, oh man, I always have a word that I forget there, but he's an aficionado and an expert in all things having to do with the law and what goes on up at macroeconomics and things like that. So welcome to the stream, broski. How are you doing? What's new and exciting with you, my friend?
Good to see you as always, my friend. I'm having a busy week here. So we had a Federal Reserve meeting on Wednesday. We also got new economic data numbers, and the SEC declared that they're starting Project Crypto. So I've been staying busy with all that. But outside of that, it's a good week so far. I mean, just doing a lot of cleaning, but what else is new?
Didn't one of the Federal Reserve members resign not too long ago? I can't remember. One of the female board of director ladies, she quit or something like that. I don't remember when that happened, but I know that there was a resignation in the Fed as of recently. I was reading up in some of the Telegram rooms. That's probably a whole rabbit hole of stuff to go down, but it looks like you are not aware of this, so I just won't worry about it then. That's stuff to talk about later time. Today we're talking about a book. Good to see that you're doing well, by the way. I made it back to Texas. Shout out to Brendan. Brendan, the anonymous bean from the DGen Roundtable. He hosted me over in Miami not but 2 days ago. And in those 2 days, I've driven all the way up to Texas and just barely made it back to my buddy's camper in time to start this stream up and everything. I literally was setting up my computer about 30 minutes before we went live and just barely made it. But life is good. We're going to talk about a fantastic book to you guys tonight. Before we talk about the book, we're going to do a quick little gloss over of the chat shout-outs. We're going to shout out the folks at home who are so bold and awesome as to join us for the stream tonight. So it's time for chat motherfucking shout-outs. Ladies and germs, we've got two of y'all in with us so far. We are joined by Miss Amber Simon, who says hello. Hello to you too, Miss Amber Simon. Good to see you. And then also my good friend, real life friend, Mr. Slide 180, my boy Josh. Glad to see you, broski. I'm excited to come and try some of that mead. He was telling me not too long ago that the batch of mead is finally ready, so I can come pick it up in the near future, and that it's very delicious and awesome and excellent. So it's going to be good. It's going to be awesome. But he says that this should be good. I think it's going to be a short stream because the book was rather short, and most of it was humor. Most of it was entertainment. Not a whole lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Not a whole lot of education in there. It was just like reiteration of common principles and things of like how you deal with adversity and not animosity. Man, I'm getting so tongue twisted and tied right now. But yes, this will be a good book and it'll be a great book club, broski. Love to see you here. Welcome, welcome. We're also joined by Tam Tam. Miss Tam Tam says, hello, my lovelies. Hello to you too, Tam Tam. Shout out to the #1 cheerleader in all of Pulse Chain and Hexco. Glad we could have you with us tonight as well. It is education time, ladies and germs, and we're going to get educated on how we can outwit squirrels. So before I dive too far in and get myself caught up, basically Outwitting Squirrels is a humorous and surprisingly insightful book that looks at the eternal battle between backyard bird lovers and the clever squirrels who raid their feeders. Through trial and error, Trial, error, and plenty of squirrely hijinks, Bill Adler Jr. teaches us about persistence, problem solving, and embracing life's little challenges with some laughter. Why it matters is that this book is more than just a squirrel story. It's about creative thinking, it's about patience, and it's about finding joy in life's like small little absurdities and things. So it's a fun book to read. I had a lot of fun. It was way more fun than Thomas Sowell and Adam Smith and Chris Voss. Like all of these, we do a lot of educational books, and I'm not saying that I get burnt out, but like it's nice to just eat a little bit of candy after having delicious steak and vegetables for so long. So this book
Look,
was definitely a candy book.
was I upset that this full audiobook was under 6 hours? No, absolutely not.
Yep, that was a much needed respite of our. I was able to do this book in one quick drive. I think that I had it on 1.5 speed because I wanted to enjoy it. So
There you go.
I'd normally listen to books on either 1.7 or 2x, and I know that you're a total just sycophant and you listen to books at like 3 or 3.5 times speed or some.
I only did 2.25 for this one.
Oh, 2.25. Okay. So yeah, so we enjoyed it. It's very fun. It's basically like, so the book has a couple themes, and I had mentioned them earlier. Persistence, ingenuity, and realizing that life is like just a constant battle of trial and error and trial and error. One of the things that I wrote in the show notes was it reminds me a lot of like virus and antivirus fights that computer hackers and those smart gentlemen have, where they're constantly going through the battle of like, I fix a problem and then a new problem presents itself. Like Trojans aren't as much of a problem as they used to be back in the early day of computers. Um, and that's the only virus thing that I know off the top of my head. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that like computer malware nowadays takes care of. And so all these guys that want to create viruses and steal data, they're out there inventing new problems. And then once those new problems happen and they start getting found on the market, then new solutions will be found, and then they'll find a new way to get around those new solutions. Much like the squirrels will find a way to get around, like you spray Teflon all over the bricks around your window. Eventually the Teflon peels off and then the squirrels can grab onto the bricks and they'll jump around. Or you put baffles up around your bird feeder. Like basically, like think about a dog's cone of shame, but in reverse. So like instead of the cone of shame facing outward, it's facing inwards, and it protects your bird feeder. And so when squirrels like come down the chain, they'll just like, they can't reach all the way around the cone of shame to get onto the thingamajigger, or they slip and fall off of it, or whatever the heck. But like the general principles of the book was like, if you look at it from like a 30,000 foot view, it's about being persistent. It's about identifying problems and creating unique solutions to them. So there's a lot of companies out there that sell really cool bird feeders, and there's a lot of cool companies out there that teach you how to or that their products solve a lot of the problems that squirrels go through. So it was
It's
a
true.
fun.
I will say
What are your thoughts,
the
bro?
book is definitely comical as it's written. So the guy leans into the swearing and throwing things and banging on the window, but
Yep.
that's mostly for comedic effect and also just to get that fun bit. But the book is like oddly stoic as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It does have a lot of like self betterment principles. I want to see if like Bill Adler has written anything else. Um, but there was a lot of good, self betterment principles that we find a lot of in a lot of the books that we read. But what were your like just general broad scope overall thoughts of it?
It's a fun departure from all the crypto and economic talk that we do here, but it's an interesting read and a fun read from like the problem solving standpoint, because it's talking a lot about defense and security, which we talk about when it comes to crypto stuff all the time. So it's a lot of similar concepts, and even like military tactics, which is like you want to try to present a hardened target, you want to try to mitigate access, you want to try to actually have a good offense as a good defense when it comes to like protective structures and whatnot. And then also it's trying to understand, like, you are trying to maximize the benefit of your bird feeder while also minimizing the ability of the squirrels to get into it. But as part of that, it's also talking about like, look, you can have one bird feeder that you put a lot of seeds in, or you can understand that you like a particular kind of bird or a few different birds, and you can specifically try to like entice them to come to your birdhouse. But overall, it was a fun little romp through problem solving and fighting the everlasting nemesis that is the squirrels. So it's always fun to go through.
Have you ever done any OSHA safety courses, Zenith? I'm sure that you have, but
yes, sir.
okay, so when I was in the Marine Corps, they sent me to a course called Ground Safety Course, which is very similar to a lot of like OSHA 10 or OSHA 6 or whatever those like intro to OSHA classes are. And that like specifically the focus of the course was to talk about how you can solve for some sort of safety concern or some sort of problem. And I've taken the principle of that lesson and applied it to like everything in life. And basically there's three basic ways that you can fix things, right? You can either engineer the solution, or you can engineer the problem out of existing, which is like, I build a system that literally like eliminates the problem. You go out there and you fix it. Another thing you can do is you can create administrative procedures that allow people to bypass the problem, or basically make the problem not a problem. So it's like, let's say there's a hole in the road, right? So the hole in the road is what our problem is. The engineering solution is you fill the hole up, and now there is no longer a hole in the road. The administrative or the procedural solution is you put a traffic cone in the middle of the hole in the road so that people don't drive into it, right? And it's just like, hey, don't go here. Or you create a big sign that says like, watch out, hole in the road. And then the third and the thing you want to use the least of is like creating protective measures. So that's like getting bigger tires that will allow you to cross over the hole, or wearing a seatbelt so that way when you roll over the hole inevitably you're not like damaged and injured. That's like where PPE comes into play. That's like where earplugs and helmets and hard hats and like flak jackets and all of that stuff that like gloves physically protect your body. Like those are like a last means defense, where it's like the first thing you want to do is you want to try and engineer the problem out. The second thing you want to do is you want to try and create administrative routes to solve the problem. And the third thing is a protective measure. And like when he was talking about the different types of bird feeders, I was like, okay, all of these are basically administrative. And then he said, or all of them were engineering. And then he said something like, yeah, you can go out there and you can like yell at the squirrels. And I was like, oh, that's like the admin in the procedures. And then the third one was like the protective measure, where that's like you literally go out there and you bat the squirrels away when they're on the thing. So I got like, I always think about whenever I see some sort of problem, I go back to that ground safety manager course. I go back to that OSHA 10 course, and
Yes,
you bring it
sir.
up. What was your military analogy again that you had mentioned?
Oh, like it's doing like just pulling normal military security when it comes
Oh,
to the ways you can either limit access, you can present a hardened target, you can also discourage the attack, and there's a handful of other things.
Yeah.
But it's kind
Ideally,
of one of
a multitude of them.
exactly. But what you're talking about there, by the way, the term for that is engineering controls. That is an
Engineering
entire
controls,
field
okay.
of study, and there are many people out there who have entire careers based solely around engineer controls, whether it's the
Really?
administrative, the preventative, or just trying to get rid of the entire
Protective?
solution.
Okay.
Protective, yeah. So
Wow, that's
there's a
fun.
lot
I
of
had
ways you
no
can do
idea.
that. Yeah, training
That's
is also one of those steps you can take as well.
Mhm.
I don't think you can really train a squirrel, but
No,
when it comes
you
to the
can't.
workforce, you can train them not to do the dumb things, hopefully.
Mhm. Well, it's not about training the squirrel. It's about like, because the squirrels are untrainable. One of the quotes that we both threw in the notes thing is that you can't train squirrels with fear, or that like squirrels can't be taught with fear. Squirrels being at the bottom of the food chain, squirrels get scared pretty much daily, like so. Because we're at the top of the food chain, things that scare us make like a very serious imprint, because we're not built to handle that sort of thing all the time. So things that live at the bottom of the food chain, they get scared and then they forget about it, and then they get scared and then they forget about it, because every single day is like a life or death sort of scenario. So
Always
like
worrying
you
about the
can't
next thing coming.
yeah, you can't like shoot a squirrel with a BB gun and then the squirrel's like, ow, BB gun. It'll just show up again the next day, or you can't like scare it into not coming back to the thing. So it's like they'll always keep trying, they'll always be persistent. So it's like you've got these fearless little enemies that are constantly motivated. Another thing I learned about from this book is like just the general nature of squirrels. Like there was a whole bunch of like reproductive stuff in there that they were talking about squirrels. I was like, wow, I had no idea that they do that sort of thing to stop like mate competition, whatever. But before I get too far into the details, I'm going to go over a quick little summary for the folks at home. If you guys didn't read this book, I'm gonna go ahead and do a little chapter by chapter breakdown that tells you how the book sort of kind of flows. And it looks like ChatGPT has given me a couple results for this, and I didn't actually get the physical book myself, so I'm sort of kind of relying on them. But here's the general order that the book goes in. So it starts off by describing that like there's a war between Bill Adler and the squirrels. So he sets the stage with talking about how he wants to feed the birds because he lives in an apartment, and he's not allowed to have pets. So he's like, oh, well, if I can't have pets in the building, then I'm going to have birds outside the building. And that's how I'm going to do it. And so he buys a little bird feeder and he sticks it on his window. And then like he starts feeding the birds and everything's great and happy. And then all of a sudden squirrels learn that there's free bird seed just chilling outside. And so they start stealing all his things. And that's what like sets the stage for bringing about this entire book getting written. So then he talks about in the second part of the book, he talks about like the beginnings of the squirrel defenses. So he talks about the basic deterrence, whether it's like he goes to the store and buys like liquid Teflon and like starts spraying it around the wall. So that way, when the squirrels jump on the wall, they like slip off and stuff. He talks about getting those little anti-bird spikes that exist. I can't remember what they're called, but it's basically like sticky tape with 180-degree spikes all the way around on the sticky tape that stops anything from being able to. It's like an aerial. It's a square. It's a surface denial type of tool thing. So he talks about all the stuff that he does to like try and get rid of the birds, whether it's from like stopping them to be able to get to the place where they can jump out and get onto the bird nest, or when they climb on, they slip off, or yada, yada, yada. So he goes through all these different things. And then finally he comes to a solution at the very end, which is he buys a quality bird feeder that has the stuff that stops that. Like companies have engineered the solutions already and they've come up with solutions to the problem. So he gets a proper bird feeder and then he has no more squirrel problems from there on. After that, he goes into the next part of the book where he talks about like the gadgets and all the different type of commercial solutions to squirrel proofing, and how many are like total gimmicks and how many are like useful things. And he talks about, then he goes into like talking about the squirrel mind. It's like learn about your enemy, all some of that like Sun Tzu art of war shit. Know thyself and know the enemy. So he delves into squirrel psychology and adaptability, and he talks about how like squirrels learn and the way that they overcome obstacles and the way that they think and they act, and their like psyche, for lack of a better word, or their adaptabilities and the things that they're good at in life. Then he talks about do-it-yourself contraptions. So little things that you can create and that you can do to stop squirrels from. So he goes through the commercial solutions. He also goes through the create it, do it yourself things. So like whether you like grease the poles or you put little domes up or whatever, then like the temporary nature of a lot of these things or the longevity of a lot of these things. And then there's even like, I think at a certain part of the book, he goes through all the different patent applications that people have filed for throughout all the time to talk about all the different like anti-squirrel things that they have. So let's see. I lost my place here. Then he talks about the successes, the partial victories, the philosophical reflections on battling squirrels. And then there's a portion of the book where he has a list of like 100 ways or 101 ways that you can stop squirrels from entering your house. And about like a quarter of them are serious. And then like a bunch of them are like, oh, you just build a fucking big ass moat around your bird feeder, and then the squirrels won't pass through the water to get the bird seed. He does a whole bunch of ridiculous stuff, and then he gets a little bit serious, and then he's got a bunch of appendices and a bunch of tips at the end of the book. So he's got a list of all the different things that you can buy as a bird aficionado or as a squirrel, not squirrel hater, but like as a squirrel fending connoisseur and stuff like that. So a whole bunch of stuff. And then he like reflects on the persistence and the humility and the absurdity of all of it. And yeah, like you could totally tell this throughout the book. So it's definitely a fun book, and it's definitely an enjoyable read. So I enjoyed it a lot. Was there any particular part of the book, Zenith, that stuck out to you or that is more memorable than any of the others before we dive into the questions?
The section where he talks about like getting in the mind of the squirrel and becoming the squirrel, go outside, get down low on your yard and see what they see and try to get in the mind of your adversary. That was a good one. I like that part.
Yep. Or is it talking about this, not only the psychology, but like literally crawl on the ground and look at the things so that way you could understand like the squirrel's point of eye view and don't worry about your neighbors thinking that you're crazy or anything. But
yeah. I know it's a slightly morbid thought that I had when I was going through the book, but at one point he talks about how squirrels navigate, which is that they leave scent trails behind. So if they have a route that they like to go to get to a certain spot, this includes like tree branches as well, it'll be marked with their scent so they can follow it via scent. And I was like, what if you just like watch them, and then you found where they made like one jump between one branch and another, and then one day you just go cut each branch like a foot shorter.
Oh.
So they
Maybe,
think
like,
it's the same jump and they just miss.
Mm-hmm. Bro, that like that actually segues perfectly into my first question, which is like, do you think that he was more obsessed with beating the squirrels or with enjoying the challenge? Because that's the thing that I wanted to focus on, is like, it's not so much about like, are the squirrels eating, like, we need a bad guy in life, right?
Yeah. I mean, humans have evolved from trying to survive. So if your survival pressure now is stopping the squirrels from stealing your pet's food, then yeah, sure, it works.
Mm-hmm. Well, there needs to be like, I think that something that this book made me think about is like, we live in a relatively wealthy world. We don't have a whole lot of problems, and so like, when we're wealthy enough that we can focus on stopping these little critters from, stealing our bird seed, then it's like we're at like low level problems. So one of the things that it made me think about is like, man, if I ever get to this point where I'm like worried about squirrels and bird seed, it's like, am I, is my life's purpose starting to go downhill? Like, I don't want to judge the guy, right? Like Bill Adler, he's probably doing exactly what he loves, and more power to him. But I got to thinking like, man, I wonder if there's any like super low level problems that I'm treating like a great big awesome thing because I need some sort of mountain to climb, some sort of dragon to slay, you know? Like, are there any mountains and dragons? I guess what are the mountains and dragons? What are the problems in life that we got to solve? What are the things that we're doing right now that's like, it's really fun and it's enjoyable, and we might write a book about it, Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, one of the things that I've heard people talk about, which is that that humanity has always been looking for the new frontier to explore.
Yeah.
So back in the day, it was literally sailing the oceans to find the new world, and then after that, it turned into expanding the frontier and settling the frontier. And then after that, there's no more land. So then we were like, well, we best go check out space. And then the average person could not go check out space. So instead, the everyman turned his attention to the economic frontiers and conquered the world of business. And that's kind of where we are today. Although we now have the cyberspace, so people are trying to conquer that space and all the new challenges and the level of anarchy that it brings naturally.
What's crazy about the cyberspace is that it's like, it's infinite theoretically, but it's literally just it's the space between two people. That's all that the internet is. It's just the connection that brings two people together. It's just it's a network of human beings. And so when you introduce more people, then now you've got more people in a room yelling about a different thing. So it's like, you have infinite places to explore in there. And it basically takes you in three different directions, is what I've noticed anyway. Is you've got hedonism, so like, porn and cat videos and YouTube stuff. You've got information, so like Wikipedia, and then like and and books. I guess there's four things actually. Information. Then you've got like sales stuff, where it's like, oh, I want to sell you something, so it's like Amazon, or it's YouTube, or it's like, hey, come sign up for my X, Y, and Z course or something. And then you got the social aspect, right? And then we've recently introduced the money sovereignty aspect with the crypto world, but like, it hasn't quite caught on to the place where the whole world's using it. But yeah, bro, the internet's a big place to explore. It sounded like you had a further thought in there, and I cut you off. Did you?
I'll expand on that real quick. If the idea that that cyberspace is like near infinite, yes, it is. But at the same time, all cyberspace is created by computers and servers, so there is technically a physical limitation to it. I guess it's time to bring up the fun fact that when your hard drive or your computer actually runs memory or tries to store memory, all it's doing is just using binary code, which is ones and zeros. If you get down to it at a really like particle level, you're actually pretty much flipping electrons to positive or negative. So that's where you get the binary. It's either on or off. So there is technically a mass of an electron. And if you wanted to calculate it, I think this was done probably like almost a decade ago, but someone did the math and they're like, all right, how big is the entire internet? Okay, let's multiply that by the weight of electrons. And they discovered that the entire weight of the internet is about the weight of a strawberry.
Huh. That's pretty cool. I like that. How long have you been carrying around this fact inside your brain, waiting to release it to the world? Because this is good, dude. I like that. The internet weighs as much as a strawberry.
I've had this one for a hot minute now, but yeah.
That's great.
to bring it back to the book though, with what you're asking here, which is like, are we trying to invent a villain? Are we trying to explore a new frontier? I think it's something that maybe some of us have done, which is like you like partly like lean into an ego challenge just because it'll like help build a little like challenge and motivation, and it's also just fun. So like for me, back when I was a young officer, I was an engineering officer, and my boss, who was the actual like EO of the ship, the engineering officer, I was having some issues with my truck at the time. He's like, well, you going to figure it out or what? And I was like, I'll just take it to the mechanic. And he got all the other chiefs and they were like, boo this man, boo this engineer, this poser.
What kind of engineer were you again?
I was a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
Yeah. So when it comes to like car maintenance stuff, I have two mentalities. One is if I have a project car, I'll wrench on that thing all day long. If it's my primary mode of transportation, I'm just like, all right, there are people better equipped than me, and I'm going for reliability. So let's go be reliable. But he was the one that kind of had that moment. And then I was like, all right, well, looking for another hobby or whatever. It's like, all right, I'll try to have a battle of my own hubris and go get a project car and go wrench on that and force myself to do it. So that's where I picked up the old 1992 Mazda Miata, and I did everything between switching out the differentials that I may or may not have shredded. And I even ended up swapping out an entire transmission in my driveway, just doing it by hand. And it's like, man. Yeah, it's the little bit of the ego challenge for me. So when I was reading the book, it's like the guy, he's being playful with it. Granted, is it like slightly annoying that like you're spending money on a hobby and these darn squirrels are just like stealing the bird food that you want to attract the birds you want to see? It's like, yes, but at the same time, it's just like, those critters. So that's where it creates the challenge. It's a little bit of that ego. It's like, am I going to let a squirrel outthink me? Am I going to let them win? Absolutely not.
Fucking no. You won't let the squirrels win. But I love that you talk about the project cars. You and Josh would get along really well. Shout out again, Josh 180 from the comments. He's a good buddy of mine. He's super duper into cars, into the whole drifting scene, and his little profile picture is that white car right there that I keep forgetting the name of. But yeah, you guys would get along really really well right there. Speaking of some of the folks in the comments, and then we'll go back to the that question because I had a thought that I wanted to get. We've got Mr. Just Live has joined. He said I post about the squirrels stealing the seed, and it's a lighthearted joke. So absolutely good to see you, Mr. Just Live. Glad that we can have you with us today as well. And then also Mr. Marcus 72. What up, all? What's up, Marcus? Good to see you with us. I actually, on the subject of Marcus, while I was down in Florida, I realized that I had your stickers envelope on the hood of my car, and I was like, oh snap, or up on the dashboard. And so I grabbed that bitch. So the return address is in Texas, which is like my old work address, but the it's going to be postmarked from Florida. So it's good to see you, Mr. Marcus 72. We're finally getting these stickers out to you, broski, after I accidentally mailed them to your neighbor. And after I don't know how many weeks or months it's been since we did the little sticker challenge, but glad that we could have you with us. But back to the question thing that we were talking about. It was more or less around the idea of like, our squirrel deterrence like a waste of time, or like an entertaining hobby, or like, I suppose, what's the value prop that people put on like these little tiny things that bring us joy, but it's like not necessarily producing value, it's more of consuming value. I guess that's the difference between a hobby and something of like and a job, is like a hobby consumes and a job produces. So like, if it makes the world a better place in such a way that people are profitable, then it's a job, then it's a purpose, it's a meaning. And if it takes in resources and doesn't provide anything, then it's a hobby. So much like the project cars, or the sword buying, or the all the random things that people do with their time, video games, like, what's the thing that we get out of it? What's the thing that we put into it? Does that ledger balance? So I guess the question for the folks at home that you guys should be asking yourselves is like, am I colloquially battling the squirrels? Am I, or not colloquially, whatever the word for like equivalent would be. Like, am I doing something equivalent? Metaphorically, yes. Am I metaphorically fighting squirrels, or am I, like, in my fight of my metaphorical squirrels, am I doing it from the perspective of like, this is something that's a hobby that brings me great joy and pleasure, or like, this is something that consumes time, or this is like, I'm fighting a frustration that I have, So in the problem solving, think about the value prop, I guess.
This is a question that people have been answering themselves for millennia at this point. It's the reason that people sponsored artists or had decorative swords made. Like, a sword is going to work as good as the sword is built, but there's no reason to deck it out with all the gilding and whatnot. I mean, that's either for social signaling or it's just
I was
because you
about to
wanted the
say
Gucci
social
sword.
signaling. Yeah.
But when it comes to asking yourself the question of, am I spending money on this because I'm actually getting a return on my investment, or is the return on my investment enjoyment? That's the big question there. And that's ultimately up to the individual to figure out. Granted, it kind of goes back to your original point there, which is like, we are living in a society where we're not starving for food and we're not barely scrapping by. So we have a little bit extra to make our lives a little more pleasant. So you got to answer that for yourself with whatever you're doing. It's like, are you enjoying what you're doing to the point that it's worth it and it's not at detriment to the rest of your life? And then also at the same time, one of the themes of the Outwitting Squirrels book is that the squirrels will always persist. There will always be more squirrels trying to steal the bird food. They will not stop. They will never stop. And it is up to you to constantly fight that battle every day. So when it comes to something like this, if it's low enough level, then yeah, sure, have fun fighting the squirrels. It's a good challenge. But at the same time, though, if it's overtaking your life, that's something else entirely there.
It's a good thing that these squirrels like, bird seed and they don't like human flesh or something like that, because we'd be in
That too.
it would be a much different level of severity of a problem if the squirrels were like, oh yes, I like eating human beings more so than I like eating bird seed and stuff. So I think people would take this a whole lot more seriously. Do you think we should even try it out with the squirrels, like, since they're only getting after the bird seed? Is it like, at what point are we, like, playing God too much? At what point are we disrupting the flow of nature, right? Like, by putting the bird seed out there in the first place, we're already messing with, the mother nature's natural balance and stuff. At what point is it like, okay, like, we have eliminated all of squirrels on the earth and now we just have a bounty of birds? Like, at what point are we taking all the wolves out of Yellowstone and now the ecosystem goes to shit? Like, where's the balance, I suppose? Do you think we'll ever even get to the point where we got to worry about that?
Well, to answer that question, obviously, if you go too far, it's too far, which is like, if you get rid of all of the squirrels, it's going to have some negative impacts there. But at the same time, though, I understand the question you're asking here, which is like, all right, are we trying to play God a little too much? And it goes to the question of good old manifest destiny, which is that we as humans are the biggest brain on the planet. Therefore, we have the moral quandary to rule overall. And it's like, okay, sure. I mean, yeah, you have the ability to affect things and implement your will in the world, but are you taking it too far if you're trying to eradicate the entire local squirrel population? Yeah, quite possibly, because you might not be thinking through it. I mean, it's the old Thomas Sowell stuff in Adam Smith, which is, you got to understand the incentives and the secondary effects, which is, why are you doing it in the first place? Have you thought this all the way through?
Oh, so like, the answer to the question is basically like, hey, have you thought about what you're doing? Are you paying attention, you dumbass?
It's like, are you sure about this? It's like, yes, you are preventing the squirrels from getting to your bird feeder, but what else are you doing in the process?
Yeah. What are the secondary order of effects? Are you creating an upset ecosystem, or are you just kind of like, and then man, at some point, like, you find yourself in charge of a like a whole sequence of events that happen. It's just like, I started this, like, I was the butterfly wing that flapped and turned a tornado somewhere else later in the world.
I don't know if I'm going full butterfly effect on this one, but at the same
Uh-huh.
time, it's somewhere in between that and doing nothing, which is like, you will have an effect to a degree, but like, at the same time, especially if you understand the level of problems you're trying to solve here, you really shouldn't overthink it too much. If you're just trying to stop the squirrels from getting your bird food, like, is it really going to have effect outside of like your local area, which for apparently squirrel population, it's like 7 acres at the most. So
Yeah, I never really thought about, like, how far a squirrel will walk in order to, like, oh, this is my distance from home that I will go. It's like, you figure, if you're a human being and you live in a city and you don't really leave the city, then that's like your area of, whatever. And you'll hardly ever venture outside of it. Or if you're a recluse that just lives at home, you never venture outside, the 20-meter square area that is your house. Or, extrapolate inwards and outwards, right? Like, squirrels don't travel very far. I've never really thought about animals as having basically like a pinpoint and then a radius around that is their, quote unquote territory. And if you get too many small things in the same territory, then you start getting problems and conflicts and squirrels start killing each other and fighting for dominance and things. There's a lot of cool stuff in the like about the squirrels and the squirrel psychology. Like you had mentioned the persistence earlier. I really like that about the squirrels, that they're just like persistent with no regard to anything else. And also they have a high turnover rate. Squirrels live for about a year in captivity or in the wild, maybe a little bit longer. I think they can live up to like 3 to 5 years, but they generally live about a year or two or something like that. Presuming there's not a whole lot of predators, but just like normal worms and diseases and things. That's about their lifespan. So like there's a high turnover rate. So not only are they persistent, but they're also like, oh, now there's new squirrels, and they have to relearn everything all over again. And they're going to watch the squirrels before them, but they're always hungry. That was something that I think the folks at home could take away from this book, is like the squirrels are always hungry. They have a very high metabolism rate, and so they're always, always, always influenced by food. And basically, like if it's a warm day where it's too hot for them to be like scampering about and they'll generate a whole bunch of heat, they'll basically just lay around on trees. But and during the winter time, obviously, they cuddle up because there's not a whole lot of food, so they don't go out as often and they don't move as much, so they don't burn as much calories. But that's like that's one of the interesting things to think about when it comes to squirrels, is they are always hungry, so they're always looking for food. Always, always, always. It's not like a thing that gets satisfied and then it's like, okay, now I can move on. It's like, nope, freaking forever hungry and forever burning stuff. But I want to talk about like the squirrel mentality and the persistence and stuff. And it's like there's going to be problems that we encounter in life that we're going to always be always fighting against. Like anyone who's done any stuff out on the ocean knows that the ocean doesn't care. The ocean's going to keep smacking against the hull of the ship. The salt is going to keep eating away at the paint. The barnacles are going to slow you down. It's a constant battle. When you're out on the ocean, you are fighting a whole bunch of things to try and do whatever the thing is that you need to do on the ocean, whether you're transporting goods from one place to another, whether you're moving people around, whether you're just out there for fun. Like there's several aspects of being out at sea that's basically like, I'm trying to kill you at all times right now. Not like as a person, but like if we anthropomorphize the waves don't care that you're that there's a baby on board. The waves don't care. They'll knock your ship over, or they'll capsize you. Like there's a lot of things in life that humans, like, we need to understand that there's problems that don't just get solved forever. So is that something you ever think about? Like what are the problems in life that are never going to be solved, Z?
I mean that's just entropy. That's most of life in and of itself. Whether it's the ocean trying to constantly erode your ship and then make it slower and less operable, or it's just the fact that laundry will always need to be done because you have to wear clothes and clothes will get dirty. Therefore, laundry always needs to get done.
Mm-hmm.
But
and there's like severity differences.
Exactly. It's life in general though, which is like you got to eat to survive. To eat, you got to get the food. However you get it, you got to find some way to do it, and it's going to be constant. It's going to be never ending. So, I think it's just one of those things that you accept in life and understand that like you're always going to be fighting the uphill battle, and it's never going to stop. But once you reconcile with that idea, I think life becomes a little bit easier, which is you're not as stressed about it. You just know it's something that's got to be done. So it's less occupying your brain and more of just like a subconscious idea that you just got to keep hammering away at.
That was beautiful, and you just totally took my next question right out of my mouth, because I was going to talk about like the balance between perceptance and acceptance. Nah, dude, that was great. So either ChatGPT knew what your answer was going to be, and it was creating the follow-on question, but you smacked that one out of the park. The question for the folks at home is like, how do you find the balance between persistence and acceptance? It's like there's going to always be problems. You're going to need to do things. Are you going to accept the problems, or are you going to like give way? Are you going to try and find a new area? Are you going to like that was the general gist of the question, but that was spot on, broski. I like it. All right, let's see. So we've covered a lot of the big ideas. We've covered a little bit of the devil's advocate and controversial stuff. Do you think this book is metaphorical for human hubris?
I think it is a little bit. It definitely is, with the idea of like you are fighting squirrels. You are fighting a critter that weighs like a pound or two at the most. So it's like it seems like a no-brainer that you should be able to win, but somehow these things just through either dumbness that creates persistence and determination or whatever it is. But it's just there will always be more squirrels and they will always keep coming. So
Bro,
yeah, it is a little bit of hubris.
as I was reading the book, I was like, man, am I like the hero of this story, or the squirrel's the hero? Is the squirrel the fucking protagonist of this book? It's not. It's not Bill. It's not the guy in power who's like putting all these obstacles. It's these dudes that are going out there and every fucking day they're grinding after it to get after this bird seed. So like that was one of the things that I was thinking about. Is like, man, the squirrels are the fucking protagonists in this story. This freaking that was that was something that it was mulling over in my mind. Did you think about that at all?
A little bit, because it's like there's obviously two characters in the story. You have Bill and you have the squirrels, and it's the constant interaction between them. I think what, as silly of a book and like hyper niche as this is, it's still a good book because in my mind it follows a very good literary structure, which is that if you want to have good storytelling, the way that you get the best storytelling is you have fully competent people who are operating at the highest level. They just happen to have contradicting ideals or goals, and it's the battle between them that makes it interesting. It's something that people have been pointing to when it comes to like Hollywood over the last 20, 30 years, which is that it seems a lot of times you automatically like hamstring a person, or you just make someone magically so much better than everyone else, or their enemies are inept or stupid or something like that. It's like, okay, this is not Deus Ex Machina, but it's more of just like inevitability, which is like, where's the real challenge? It just seems like someone is set up to win and you're just watching that person win, as opposed to an actual struggle, which is what we get between Bill and the squirrels, which is that Bill is trying his hardest to try to have his perfect little bird utopia. And the squirrels are also trying their hardest just to do what squirrels do and just get the food. And it's that battle between them, which makes it interesting to think about and follow along with, because it's both people playing their games at the highest level. And you're trying to figure out who's actually going to win at the end, who's actually going to come out on top, because everybody wants the bird seed, but only one person at the end can have it. And it's going to be either someone backing down or it's going to be someone conquering the other.
I like that. I like that a lot, man. You're either going to rise to the challenge, or you're going to fall to the oh shoot, damn it, I'm conflating sayings now, where it's like you fall to your lowest level of training during emergencies. But yeah, it's like life is a constant struggle, I suppose. You think you're gonna feed squirrels? As I was reading this book, man, I was starting to get like squirrel FOMO and birdseed FOMO, and it's like I notice this anytime like I read a book or I pay attention to something, that it's like I start getting interested in that thing. Like, bro, when I see a Warhammer video on my YouTube like recommended feed and I click on it, it's like, man, I really want to go buy some figurines and like play some Warhammer right now. But like I know nothing about Warhammer, and it's such a huge thing, and it's so big and such a big time commitment to get into. Like, did you get any bird feeding FOMO as you were reading this book, or like anti squirrel device FOMO?
Not FOMO necessarily, but my brain definitely was thinking about like ways that I would tackle some of these problems, thinking about interesting things that I could do. Because the guy talked about, yeah, you can try to get a squirt bottle or a water gun and shoot the squirrels, but eventually they'll just like either get used to it and not care, or it just is going to take a lot more effort and a lot more squirting to get it done. And yeah, I was thinking about like, all right, like theoretically, could we, I don't know, get like an Arduino and some stuff like that and try to jerry rig some sort of a contraption to imitate the Sea Whiz, but with a water gun, and try to track the squirrels and shoot them.
For the folks at home who don't know what a Sea Whiz is the R2D2
device that's hungry for commercial airliners.
Yes. So a Sea Whiz is an anti-enemy aircraft device that exists all on its own, separate from the entire power. It's a naval protection device. So they exist on ships, and it's basically a self-contained brain and tracking mechanism and battery powered thing that like looks at anything up in the air that it thinks is a bad guy, and it has to be told, "Don't shoot that thing." If I remember correctly, Sea Whizzes have to be told, "Don't shoot that thing," rather than "Do shoot that thing" every time. And it's like those mini guns that you see on ships that are just like, and they look for things that, because like if somebody shoots a missile at your ship, you're not going to have time to be like, oh, that's a missile, I better shoot it down. That's where the Sea Whiz comes into play. It's a thing that's always out there looking for threats, and it's like, oh, I got to shoot this one. They did a test fire of the Sea Whiz on my ship when I was on it. Have you ever been on a ship when they do the test fires for the Sea Whiz?
I've not been on a ship with a Sea Whiz, but I've heard many of the stories
fucking-
from everybody else.
It rumbles.
They look
man.
sick.
It
I've
shakes
seen the
your
videos.
bones. I was on the Wasp, the USS Wasp LHD-1, and that's a 860-foot long ship. 7 decks up, 7 decks down, maybe more. I can't remember the exact number, but it's a big fucking ship. And the Sea Whiz that they were testing, as I recall, was over near the fantail, which is the back end of the ship. It's the butt where the motor and everything are, or the propeller and stuff. It was back there, and my berthing, my living quarters was in the very front of the ship. And they closed all the hatches to every single outside thing on the ship so that there was like no sound going to get into the ship. And when they fired that thing, man, you could just feel it through the entire damn ship. And it's like, whoa, this is like a 30 millimeter cannon. This ain't nothing compared to like the size of the bullets that ships like back in the day would shoot out all the time. So I can only imagine how much noise like being on an actual battleship or a cruiser or like a big ship would be like during the stuff. But I just remember like the fucking rumbling noise, the whole ship vibrated. It was really cool, man. Really fucking
Yeah,
cool.
the Sea Whiz is a great example of they were trying to get automated threat detection going very early. I want to say it was developed in the 90s sometime. So this is well before like computers really started ramping up and AI was even a thing. So they're like, all right, we have to make this thing that wants to track things that we want it to track, but they may have tuned it a little too far, and it just wants to track anything and everything.
Yep.
There have even been some horror stories of people like walking around on the helipad when just doing normal work, and someone's like working on the Sea Whiz. It's not loaded or anything, but it just like starts tracking people, and it's just like, oh, that's ominous.
I'm gonna I gotta pull up a share screen because I realize that like there's probably folks at home who don't know what a Sea Whiz is. So it's a close-in weapon system. So it's a last-ditch automated defense system designed to protect ships from incoming threats like anti-ship missiles, aircraft, and other projectiles. It's a final layer of defense when other shipboard defenses have been bypassed. Typically uses radar-guided, rapid-firing guns or missile systems to intercept and destroy threats at close range. So this is what they look like. So these guys right here, the little R2-D2 with a boner. It's a fucking big brain and an ammo housing unit with a very fast shooting gun. Let me see if I can.
The general theory behind it is that if you're trying to deter or destroy an incoming projectile, you're not trying to be accurate. You're just trying to put up a wall of lead and just. Yep. It's effectively the modern day shotgun equivalent, which is you just want to pull up a wall of stuff and hopefully the missile hits one of them and blows up.
Yep. Yeah. So these are some of the examples of different close-in weapon systems. But yeah, freaking really cool. And most of them are chain guns or Gatling gun type things. But yeah, freaking really nifty stuff over there. So that's what we're talking about. How do we get on to Sea Whiz?
You asked me if I was daydreaming at all during this stuff, and I was like, yeah, I kind of want to try to make my own little anti-squirrel Sea Whiz that shoots water.
Oh, that's right. Yep. So yeah. The question I suppose was, do you ever get FOMO about the squirrels and things? So yeah, I was getting FOMO like crazy when when I was reading the book. It's like, oh man, I gotta go do some squirrel stuff. Speaking of stuff I gotta do, we've got some chat shoutouts that I gotta go through. Then we'll finish up with a couple more questions and close out the stream a little bit early because we're basically running out of content. Not a whole lot of stuff to talk about in this fantastic book, but we've been joined. Excuse me, by Mr. Hexkin Lost in Asia. Mr. Hexkin Lost in Asia says, hey, D-Gents, Sea Whiz for the W. Yes, absolutely, good sir. Sea Whiz for the W. Shout out to our fellow military member out there. Glad to see that you're still lost in Asia and doing great, doing awesome. We're also joined by Mr. Kenturian54X. Mr. Kenturian54X says, what's up, amigos? What's up to you too? Glad to see you. Good, sir. This is our favorite Dungeons and Degens Dungeon Master. Everyone's favorite pilot and farmer. Good to see you, broski. We also got a couple chats and thoughts from Arceus. Arceus says, the birds have it easy. The squirrels are the ingenious heroes hustling to make it. But Bill is the one writing the history book, so he gets to decide who the protagonist is. There's a lesson in there. And Arceus, abso-fucking-lutely right. Abso-fucking-lutely right. The person with the power gets to write the history book. Doesn't mean it's
written
true.
by the victors.
Yes, it does not mean that it's factual. It does not mean that it's true. It means that they have the pen. So, uh, the thing that I like to get out of this is the squirrels need to learn how to be content creators and they need to learn marketing. The birds need to be content creators and the birds need to do marketing. Everyone needs to write down like the word history. It's his story. Sami had mentioned this in one of his other shows. It's like it's his story. So is his story true? Is his story false? Who the fuck knows? It's his story. It's a campfire story. Is it real? Is it factual? Is it entertainment? There's definitely true things that Bill has said throughout this book, but again, it's like Bill's the one with the power, so Bill's the one that gets to write things down. So that's outstanding that Bill gets to decide who the protagonist is. And yeah, I absolutely agree. This book is definitely a meditation on life. There's a lot of good fun meditations to be had in this book, and I think that this is an excellent choice for book club number 69. Before we go, I want to ask the folks at home, what is something small in life that you enjoy or that brings you joy? Is it like bird watching? Is it gardening? And then what are the problems that you're going to have to deal with? Just kind of, you don't have to answer it. You can throw it into the comments if you like, but just think about like, what are the small things in life that you like to do? Like Bill enjoys his bird watching. And we were talking about earlier, like making kind of fun of it. It's like, oh, is this really fulfilling the purpose of your life? It's like, yeah, you can think about it that way. You don't necessarily have to, but like, think about the small things in life and think about the challenges and think about how you got to overcome them. And yada yada yada. That's the if I could do one thing for the readers, it would be get them, paying attention to stuff and thinking about things and being more deliberate. That's what I really took out of this book is pay attention and think about things. And he certainly had fun paying attention to the birds and to the squirrels. What about you, Z? Did you have any life lessons that you extracted out of this book?
There were a few. I mentioned the whole stoicism argument in the beginning.
Yeah.
Multiple times he makes some arguments similar to that. One of them was that no matter how mad you get at the squirrels will never be mad at you. They're just going to keep on doing what they do.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah. The squirrels will never. Yeah, that's good stoic principles there. The squirrels will never get mad at you. They're just going to do what they're going to do. You can apply that to dating. You can apply that to working for a corporation or some sort of employer. Like life will continue irrespective of your emotions. Your emotions only affect you inside your brain at the time, and then whatever actions you decide to take as a result of those emotions. So that's good, man. I like that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And then I guess just like a random thought that I had towards the end of the book, the guy talks about like people that actually have squirrels as pets and what he could learn from them. But there was a bunch of squirrels that had like unique personalities and stories and even nicknames behind them. One of my favorites was there was one guy who had a squirrel that kept burying like half-eaten peanuts and acorns in his flower bed, and he was getting pissed off about it. And then there was another guy who had a squirrel that didn't bury peanuts and acorns, but instead he buried like bulbs, like the tulip bulbs that you plant. But he discovered that the squirrel was getting the bulbs because it was going and stealing his neighbor's bulbs and then bringing it over to his flower bed and burying it because that's where the squirrel thought its stash was. And he's like, "Look, I'm not bad. Like free bulbs."
Yep. Sometimes you turn your little squirrels into money printers, as Nate would say. It's like you unwittingly or you can get nature to do the work for you. I've heard of people that taught back when coins used to mean something. They would teach crows to bring them like loose change that was like lying on the street. Like back when people used to carry quarters and they would drop it on the street. Then he would give like the crows a peanut for bringing him a quarter. And he trained up an entire like flock of crows, or maybe it was ravens, I don't know. But he trained up animals to bring him loose change for like dimes on the dollar, buying peanuts for him and stuff. So
it's true.
Sometimes the entropy works in your favor.
That's true. Another good one was there was a guy who had a pet squirrel that he nicknamed Mad Max. And the reason for it was he adopted him when the guy was cutting down trees in his yard and discovered he accidentally cut down a squirrel nest and there was a baby squirrel. So he took it and adopted it. He was driving on the road one day and had the squirrel in a box. And then he had the window down. And when a semi went past, the box got sucked out by the pressure. And then he got out and like went and found the box and the squirrel was still in there. So he nicknamed him Mad Max, the Road Warrior.
That's fucking awesome. Was that in the book? I missed that.
Yeah, totally. It was in the book.
Oh man, how did I miss that? That's crazy cool.
Yeah.
I read that whole fucking. It might have been while I was doing something because I was listening to it on the road when I was paying attention. So maybe there was a car cutting in front of me. Dang, that's awesome. Fucking Mad Max. I
We
gotta
need more nicknames. We need more nicknames. There's not enough of that stuff going on these days. I feel like you just call people by their names. You hang out at work. You don't do much else. But it's like back in the old guard and the old military, people had the weird nicknames and the call signs from doing embarrassing stuff. No one ever got cool nicknames. It was always their buddies slightly making fun of them. But to the uninitiated, it's kind of cool.
So yeah, so we were both in the military. I had a call sign and nickname that was given to me. They called me Beavis, like from Beavis and Butthead. So that was my nickname when I was on ship. I had just picked up sergeant, and so I was Sergeant Beavis. And our gunnery sergeants gave everybody in our platoon nicknames. So for those of you guys that don't know, you don't get to pick your own nickname in life. Your friends are the ones that pick your nickname. Same thing with like call signs for pilots. You don't get to pick your own call sign. You can't be like, oh yeah, I'm top flyer man who shoots perfect bullseyes every time. It's like, no, your name is Coffee Cup because like you accidentally brought your coffee cup into the cockpit one day and you spilled coffee all over your crotch while you're flying and blah blah whatever, right? So that was my unflattering nickname, Zenith. What was your because I know you were an officer on a ship in the Coast Guard, so you had to have a nickname.
I don't think I got one. I was just
Oh,
DCA.
Man.
As an officer, we all had
havoc.
Arguably yes and no. Let's maybe not do that. That's how we keep our jobs. But yeah, we always just had the kind of like the role that we were filling. So I was the damage control assistant. So just got shortened to DCA. So for like a year and a half there, that's just what I answered to. It was either that or someone said sir in a general direction that I was in. I'd turn around and be like, yep.
Oh man, we need to figure out a nickname for you, folks. Folks at home, if you guys are watching this on replay or live, go ahead and throw up some options in the chat for. We need a nickname for Zenith over here. So if y'all got something funny or something awesome that you think about when it comes up for Zenith, then we'll see. I'll collect up all the contestants and we'll have a vote and we'll see what's the best nickname for Mr. Zenith. And if we don't get anything, then we'll try this again later. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this. I'll close off with saying that my dad used to be a helicopter pilot. And there's one time where he landed without putting the landing gear down, and so they called him Wheels Up Wilbur, and that was his nickname. I think that when he landed, he like broke something off of the fuselage of the bird, and so they like took it and they turned it into a plaque and they gave it to him. So get yourselves a nickname, get yourselves some friends that the fuck you just passing hammers on stream.
Yeah.
I
was building bookcases like today and yesterday, man.
That's true. More books for the bookcases. Speaking of more books for the bookcases, that about does it for this show. Have you thought about what book you want to do for next week's book club, Mr. Zenith?
Next week we are going to do Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. Excellent. That's a good choice. I like it. Sweet. So that being the case, let's go ahead and close out the show. Scale of 0 to 10,000, from an absolute beginner knowing nothing to a 10,000 hour expert. Where should a person read this book if they are so inclined?
I'm going to call it 1,000-hour book.
1,000-hour book, you say?
At that point, you've got a good bit of research and study and experience under your belt. Might be getting a little too deep on some stuff because you're really trying to get going on the journey. But this will be a good refresher to remind you that, yes, sometimes in life you are just fighting the squirrels. But at the same time, maybe we can learn some security and defense stuff here. But at the same time, though, it's something to alleviate the pressures and the woes and be like, yeah, just remember, like, it's sometimes you're just fighting the squirrels, and you just got to understand that and not overthink it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now for your metric, are you measuring this on like our normal metric of like a normal person on his journey to excellence in like a finance or crypto space, or is this like in specifically like a squirrel hunting or like a bird feed creating person? Is
if you're going for the crypto, I'll call it 1,000 hours. If you're going for bird watching because you want to do that as a hobby, then yeah, this is probably closer to the sub 100-hour mark. It's a fun read. It's light. It'll get you in, get you some actual good info on how to actually combat this stuff and give you all the options and things available, things that have people tried and failed with in the past, and what you can learn from them.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, that's a good answer. I would put this book somewhere. I would put it around the 1,000-hour part, but not because of like any lessons that need to be learned, but just because like you need a fucking break. You need to do something fun every now and again. So throw it in there
There
for
you
like,
go.
you know, comedic relief. That's why I would put it there. You know, I don't think this book is a must-have, but it's definitely got some good reinforcing principles, and it remains like wholesome and valuable. And you know, like for the folks at home that don't know, when squirrels, you know, go through their mating process and their mating ritual, the male seals up the female's mating parts, so that way no other squirrels can mate with them later. So there you guys go. You learned a fun fact about squirrels today, and that's what we've got as far as this book. We do have a couple foreskin comments that I want to go over real quick. One of them one of them is from Mr. Josh here. My favorite work nickname is Foreskin because when things get hard, you disappear. So there you go. We are the DGen Roundtable. So there you guys go. I'm sure that'll bring some giggles for the folks at home. There you go. And then Arceus has a question. What is a nickname that has to do with long and torturous books? To which the response from Mr. Just Live is the Necronomicon.
Definitely a long
I
and
don't.
torturous book in a different sense, but okay.
I would agree that the Necronomicon is a long and torturous book. I don't know if nicknaming Mr. Zenith Necronomicon is the best, but that is a fun thing for me to think about when it comes to book club. Is Zenith.
There was I can't remember which stream it was, but it was a couple ago, or it was probably like over 10 ago. But Moonpilled Rational Optics came in and he hit me with Zenith doesn't get out of bed in the morning for an audiobook that's less than 2x.
I like
it's
it.
a
Shout out
reference to
Moonpill.
that was a reference to Charlie, because on stream he says we don't get out of bed for a crypto unless it's doing at least a 2x.
Yeah, I think I've heard Miguel say that as well. Shout out to
Yeah.
Charlie and Miguel. Those guys are awesome. That's great, broski. Good to see you guys. I wish I don't have a drink, but fuck it. I would cheers as well. So yeah, cheers to the boys at home. All right. So that covers that. Zenith, is there anything new and exciting going on in the near future? And where can the folks find you?
We are staying busy over here. Will mentioned at the beginning of the stream that I am the government and legal guy, and I mentioned it as well. We had a big week. We had Federal Reserve meeting, we had economic data come out, and we had the SEC talk about Project Crypto. So we're going to be talking about a lot on the Sunday news show coming up every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, like all of our streams. So that is where you can catch more of that information. We'll be talking about the markets. There is a possibility of a 60-day cycle low coming up here in the next week based on current chart movements. So keep up on that. I may be revising my theory about what I thought the 60-day cycle was doing, but we'll have to just play it out in real time. So we'll have all that information for you guys on Sunday night. And then after that, we got Whiskey Wednesday coming up, as always. And then after that, we're going to be back next Friday for Atomic Habits. And then outside of that, folks, you can find me on Instagram and X at ZenithDI, or if you scan this QR code right here, it will take you to our Telegram group where you can get in there, hang out with us, ask us any questions, post good memes, all that kind of stuff. And I think I will be contributing to the Pew Pew wireless hole puncher channel because I may have gotten myself a new toy. So if you're interested, it'll be in there.
Excellent. Do you want to? Is there anything that Walk the Block is doing in the near future that is worth mentioning, or anything you guys got cooking up over there? If you want to promote,
we are always cooking up stuff over there. Let me tell you, that channel's keeping me busy right now. I'm going to be uploading,
because you're the producer for it, right? So it's like, you know, like not only do we have the
yeah, and apparently I'm also one of the lead creatives over there, meaning that I get to do all the thumbnails, the video editing, coming up with ideas. So right now I'm uploading a new Crypto 101 video on YouTube that will be free for everybody out there. Tracker and I got together and sat down and talked about onboarding cash into crypto, aka making your first purchase. And then we also sat down last night and recorded the next one, which is talking about wallets, whether they're hot wallets or cold wallets, and a lot of different safety basics that go into that. And then our first one that is up on the YouTube is the history of crypto, where we talked about why does this thing even exist? How does it stack up compared to other investment assets, and the pros and cons of everything? So that's free out there. You can catch our show Monday night Eastern time over on Walk the Block, Navigating Digital Finance on YouTube. And then we also have the website, walktheblockndf.com. That one has the links to everything you need. But mainly what we're doing over there is we're trying to run a private Telegram community that is designed to be a white glove service to get people in, get all their questions answered, and get you guys up and running as quickly as you can so you can start contributing to all the research that's going on in there as well. Agent J is doing streams like dang near every day covering the markets very, very in depth. So if you have a question that's very technical, odds are he's going to answer it. And then outside of that, yeah, we got the Monday show, which is going to be free forever, which we're going to keep going. We talk about news and we try to cover everything from beginner to intermediate to advanced, trying to appeal to everybody so we can all work together and win together.
Yep. I like it. I like it. I like it. Mr. Josh, I know that you and I were talking earlier about like getting into crypto and finding things. I think that these guys would be a fantastic resource. So until I'm able to make my way down there and hang out with you and walk you through the process myself, like this is the Zenith and the folks over at Walk the Block are an excellent resource for like just creating content from like 0 to 1. Like I'm more than happy to explain it to you and walk you through it in person or on a call and things. But like if you're just looking to like find somewhere to click on your own time and learn some things, and definitely go check out Walk the Block on YouTube. Also check out Whiteboard Crypto. Those guys are fucking phenomenal. Although he
Beat me
has
to it.
a
Whiteboard
lot.
Crypto is the OG.
Yeah, Whiteboard Crypto is OG, and he's also started uploading new stuff. So he's not only got all of his legacy content that talks about all the stuff that was relevant in the last bull market, but he's also making more. So the problem that that I would see with recommending people going to Whiteboard Crypto is that they would be overwhelmed by having like 300 plus videos that they need to watch. So with what's great with Walk the Block is their new stuff, not necessarily the live things, but the if I understand correctly, but are you guys making a playlist for like intro to crypto kind of thing over there on the
Yes.
channel? Okay.
Yeah, if
sweet.
you go over to the YouTube, there's a video playlist called Crypto 101. That's
There you
where
go.
all of those things are going, and those should get you. It's going to be a lot of kind of the strategy behind why we're doing what we're doing, and then a good bit of the nuts and bolts of like, okay, cool, I understand the concepts. How do I like go physically interact with the things? So we're trying to tackle both those things at once.
That's excellent. I like it. I like it. So in addition to that, over Walk the Block, if you guys want to join DRT, like Zenith said, there's that QR code up top, or you can click on this link that I've put in the live comments there below, t.me/DRT join now. That's how you get into the DGen Roundtable community. Also a great place, but we're more degenerate and we don't focus as much on the learning and the literal 1, 2, 3 stuff. It's more of like a, hang out with the bros, do the swearing, talk about, squirrels having sex and all that other crazy things. So DGen Roundtable. You've got the professional Walk the Block, and you've got the fun and freaky DGen Roundtables. There you go.
That's the pitch.
Yeah, I think that is the pitch. Remember, guys, that nothing we talk about on this channel is financial advice, and make sure that you guys like that smash button and all that other stuff that people say is the copywriting at the end of their shows and things. I guess for the folks at home that want to find me and where I'm at, if you want to follow my socials and things or see what's going on with me, you can go to will.pls.fyi. All of my socials can be found over there. And if you guys want to check out Book Club, then you need to go to t.me/DGen Book Club, all one word. That's where you can find all these notes, and that's where you can see what book we're going to be doing next. You can look at our schedule. You can look at our anthology of all the 69 other books that we have covered so far, and check out and contribute over there. You can even write in some suggestions for some books for us to cover. So at some point, I have to go through the suggestion list and delete all the things that we've actually covered and list pretty like all the suggestions that everyone's had. So that's what I've got going on. Like Zenith said, for the DGen Roundtable, we've got the news on Sunday, the next book club on Friday you've covered, and then Whiskey Wednesday is the next thing we got going on. That's it for me. I might be traveling up to Oregon in the near future to do some power work up there. I got a text from my boss like 30 minutes before the show started, so that might be happening in the near future. So anybody up in the Pacific Northwest, I might come swing by and say hi. That would be pretty cool. And that's it for me. And that's it for Zenith. And so with that being it for everything, I want to thank all of you for spending your valuable time with us here on the DGen Roundtable. As Agent Jay often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you spending that time right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the DGen Roundtable. I really got to change this because it says, Mr. Producer, go ahead and get that trigger finger ready. But there's no point for me talking to myself. So I got to get that trigger finger ready because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to DGen responsibly.